Hi guys, welcome to my channel where I talk about how to heal chronic fatigue, chronic illness, chronic symptoms, chronic pain by healing old trauma from our childhood, attachment trauma in particular, also known as developmental trauma or complex trauma. My name is Lauren. Welcome back if you have been here before, and welcome if you're new. I today want to talk about some phrases that I use on repeat when I'm in a triggered state of some kind, in a freeze state, in a freeze response. And I was inspired to do so by several conversations I've had with clients as we're, talking about how to do this, what does it actually look like when you're triggered and you're in a state, when you're in freeze. What do you do? What does it actually look like? And one of the things that I have observed that I do that has been really, really important on my journey is have these phrases that I'll repeat over and over and over again in my head to keep me focused in the right place. Because when we are triggered by something, we may or may not realize that we were triggered or when we were triggered. And so we can go into a spiral. At some point, either quickly or slowly, we enter into a freeze response because emotions are trying to come up. Emotions are present in the body, but our defenses are keeping it and say, it's not safe. That's an emotion that is not safe. Don't feel it, don't see it, and God forbid, express it. So that defense is what sends us into a freeze response. So then we dissociate from that emotion, and that's the misery. That's when the misery comes. The misery. I talk about this all the time. The misery of being in a triggered state. I call them a triggered state. It's a trauma state. It's a freeze state. It's so miserable. That's the word that just resonates the most for me. It's very difficult to describe. Miserable is the best word that I have for it. But lots of things happen. Your body becomes exhausted, heavy, you might get pains, digestion slows down, stops working, start having more symptoms, brain fog, this feeling of dragging yourself through across the planet, like across the room. It's very heavy, very emotions are narrowed. There's anger, but it's not coming out as anger. It's just like bad mood, feeling awful. So what do we do when we're in those states? So I've made another video, how you get out of a freeze state when you're dealing with trauma is that you get access to the actual emotion. So, that's not always true. That's not always, I should say it's not always accessible, but to turn towards it is the key. Turn towards it. We've got to find some way to turn towards the pain that's actually there, because the suffering that we're experiencing is the dissociation from the pain. It's not the actual pain. It's the dissociation from it. It's the fact that there's pain there, but it's stuck. That dissociation is what causes the suffering. So we've got to find a way to turn towards that pain and start to shine light on it. And that's a process. So when you start to do this, you're not going to immediately get to the emotion, most likely. You might get to some, but the core of it, and there are lots of different layers that are probably there, that are being dissociated from, and there are layers of protection in there too. So we need to have our bodies feel like we're turning towards it with compassion, with sensitivity, with presence, with strength, with confident, like ability to hold that space, knowing that it's not, that we're not going to love ourselves less, that we're not going to love that part of us less, that we love. It's about unconditional love is how we heal. That's easier said than done. That's a long process of how do we learn that. So one of the things that getting into the nitty gritty of like, what does it look like in the moment to moment experience of being in this state? One of the things I do is use these phrases because I'm trying. So when you're in these states are so miserable that it's like the defenses are doing everything that they can to keep us away from the truth that is there. So we have to compassionately and kindly move towards it and remind ourselves what's actually happening. So our minds will take us all kinds of places to explain what's happening. But the truth is, it's always a wound. So for me, when I'm in those miserable states and all I want to do is be angry and miserable, that's just all, it's like what's screaming in my face, and your face probably, if you're in these states, that I have to find a way to keep reminding myself this is a wound. So I'm going to say, so some of the phrases that I'll just repeat these phrases to myself. That's one of them. I'm in a wound. This is a wound. This is a wound. Because your mind will try to not tell you it's not a wound, it's something that's happening. It's either a person that's doing something to you, or we blame ourselves, it's something that we've done to ourselves. This is what the mind is the mind's trying to find the answer. What is it? What is it what have I been doing wrong in the world that has created this? Or what's wrong with me that this is happening to? That's where the wounded place is like taking us usually, but that's not the truth. The key in going away from the energy to moving towards it is translating those things into the truth of what they are. Because the truth of what they are is pain. They're coming from a place of pain. So things that are about me, something wrong with me, that's the defective wound. That's a wound that comes from neglect, emotional neglect, not getting your emotional needs met. That sense of self-worth was created, but it was left with holes in it in these areas that your parents, your caregivers did not hold up the presence, the love, the presence, the unconditional the consistent love, the consistent presence, the consistent, like this, there's nothing that can ever mess up this relationship. That's what we needed. That you could scream, you can cry, you can express anything, you can say anything, you can be any way, you can do anything. And yes, there are behaviors that your parents would correct, but that love never goes away. That's what we need. And when we don't get that, there are these holes that are filled with question marks. Because then we go out into the world with question marks. Am I okay? Am I worthy? Am I lovable? Am I safe? Is this world a safe place? Are people trustworthy? Most of those answers to those we believe are no, because it's the default, but it's not a default. We believe it because there's a wound, there's pain there. So that's what I mean when these things are coming. It's like, how do we translate the suffering noise that's coming up, the voice that's coming up with suffering, translate that into we've got to be able to listen through a different lens. And one of the things that helps me do that is these phrases, and I swear I repeat them so much, and every time I notice that I'm spiraling in those places where whenever I catch it, I come back. I'm in a wound. This is a wound. This is a wound. This is a wound. I'm in a wound. And what that implies, what that means is this is a wound. This isn't me. This is a wound that's separate from me. It's on top of me, but it's not me. There's not something wrong with me. It's the wound that's creating this. There's pain. This is another one. There's pain here. There's pain here. Okay, I'm here. I'm listening. This is a big one. I'm listening. I'm here. I'm listening. And for me, over time, there's something that, like, the whole energy of my body shifts. this has become associated with me, or for me, with the nervous system work that I've done so much of. All the breathing and the havening and the rewiring of the nervous system that we develop. When you do that work, you develop this safe place inside of yourself. That's very difficult to access when you're in a triggered state. And so the goal is to know, to try to connect with that space again. And these kinds of phrases help me. So, and I made a PDF inspired by one of my clients to do so. And I'm going to try to link it. I've never done that before, but hopefully it'll work. I'm going to try to link it down. I think I can. Link it down below in the comment section if you want to print it out with all of these phrases. So another one is, this has history. This has a history. This is old. This is old. Again, that's implying this is not my entire life experience, because when we're in a triggered state, it feels like this is the way it has been always, it is now, it always has been, and it always will be. And we've got to try to draw ourselves out of that place, because it's not true. It's not true. But it feels that way. And so in one way is to remind ourselves it's old. It's old. Another thing is, this is my inner child taking over my body right now. This is my inner child speaking. My inner child is taking over me right now, encompassing my energetic being, encompassing my awareness, encompassing my mind, encompassing my body. My wounded inner child is screaming for attention, screaming to be seen, dying to be seen. And so she's getting really loud. And so repeating these kinds of things. She needs to be seen. She just needs to be seen. So I'm doing all these before, it's like to prepare myself to be able to start listening. I'm just telling myself these things over and over again. So I'm looking back at my document. So she needs to be seen. She's screaming to be seen. She's dying to be seen. See her, or him. See her. Acknowledge her. She's in pain, and she has a right to that pain. She needs to be seen. She needs to be seen. Then other good language is to start speaking directly to the body. So depending on where you are, if you're really in an intense state, those kinds of phrases that I have already said are really helpful, because there's a little bit of separation. When you start getting better at this, or just whatever resonates with you, whichever feels better for you, you can speak to the body directly and say, I'm here. I see you. I hear you. I see you. I feel you. I see that you're sad. If you can identify an emotion, you can say, I see that you're sad, or I see that you're angry. I see that you're angry. I'm here. I'm listening. I see that you're overwhelmed. I see that you're scared. Fill in the blank of any emotion. Of course, havening is always welcome tool. Is so important, because it sends these messages of safety. So you can do this while you're havening. And these phrases are turning you even more towards yourself. So you're using, not only are you using your body to turn towards yourself, and sometimes that's all we can do. Other times we can just use our mind, and that's all we can do, one or the other, or we can use both, whatever your capacity is in that moment. And always our capacities are diminished in these states. So be gentle on yourself, because it's going to vary every time, in my experience. So, tuning into her as best you can and being like, I know, I see you. I know you're in pain. I know you're in pain. I want to see you. I want to be here. I'm here. I'm listening. I've got you. I've got you. I've got you. I'm listening. And see what comes up. See if anything comes up. Even if nothing does, this turns the energy. It's changing the energy in your body. It's changing what's happening. You're seeing, because you're seeing the truth of what is. You're seeing the truth of what's there, not the false story. The false story is there's something wrong with me. Now, I'm not the person, as you guys probably know, if you know me, I'm not the person to say, identify that story and then just release that story, get rid of that story, you start to shift that story. It's not because the way, in my view, the way to shift that is to acknowledge that I believe I'm defective. There's a part of me that believes I'm defective, and that belief came from pain. And so the way to change that story, change that belief, I don't even like using the word story, sorry. Changing that belief, because I don't like story because it's true. It's truth. It's true in your body. You believe, your life experience has shown you this, that has given you evidence for this. It's the truth that's inside your body. So anyway, so to change that belief, we have to access the pain. That's the way to change the belief. So another thing to say, you can say to your inner child, acknowledge there's pain here, as I said. I know you're in pain. Where is it? Where is it, my little darling? Where is it, my little one? Where is it, sweetheart? Where is it, little girl, little boy? Where is it? Whatever, like endearing, if you have an endearing name for your inner child, if not, that's fine too. But just something, I find it helpful to over time, it's just sort of spontaneously come about that something just felt right for me to start saying. And it helps me go more, like tune into her more. Just to call her, something sweet and endearing and loving, like sweet, like little one, like darling. Darling, it actually surprised me that would be the one, but it did. It just, little darling, my darling, was what came up for me. It just, it just kept coming, and so I trusted it and went with it. So where is it? Where is it, my darling? What is it? I'm listening. I'm here. I'm listening. So those kinds of phrases, repeat, just repeat. And any like that you can come up with that really resonate, things will start to just organically show themselves as things that you want to say to your inner child. Sorry, my foot was falling asleep. I like to sit cross-legged, but it was falling asleep. So anything that just comes up organically that you find helps you tune into your inner child, tune into the truth of what is there, and the truth is pain. It's not, it's not easy truth. This is why we have illness. This is why we have the pains in our body. It's not an easy truth, but this is so, so important to be able to shift the experience that's going on and redirect the focus to what's really happening. I'm in pain. This is pain. This is a wound. This is old. This is old. This is old. This isn't me. This is a wound. This is a wound. I'm so used to, and in my head, you can say it in your head, out loud, whatever works for you. It'll just be throughout my day. I've had periods when I had triggered states that would last for days, weeks, months. And when I had chronic fatigue, it was all the time. So when I had these long periods, it's like, I'm saying these things to myself all the time. because I keep being pulled into the triggered state. I'm still in the triggered state when I'm saying these things, but I keep being pulled into the triggered thoughts, the thoughts that are believing, things that, conclusions about me and the world and other people and my capacity and my ability to be in the world and what I'm capable of, that defective wound, as I was talking about. So we've got to shift the lens. So, that's like a helpful, for me, and that's why I'm sharing it, has been a really helpful entryway of shifting that energy. So with havening is the somatic way of doing this, and with the mind, it's like these phrases. And again, you can come up with your own. But I made a PDF if you want to print it out and post it somewhere, so that when you have these, you're in a triggered state, you're in a free state, you could just read them and start saying them to yourself over and over and over again to change what's happening in your mind. It really does. It shifts the energy, and there's this response in the body. It's hard to explain it, but it's validating to it. For you to be speaking the truth of what's happening, your body finds it validating. Whether you can feel that or not, it does. And the validation is what we didn't get in childhood. That's what we needed and didn't get. And we had this belief, because of whatever dynamics were going on, my emotions aren't allowed. My truth is not allowed. It's like a universal invalidation pattern is created. And so in order to heal, in order to be able to feel these emotions, we've got to validate them. And we have to learn how to do that. You don't learn it just by saying, I have to validate myself. What does that look like? This is one of the ways that I do that. It's validating what's actually happening when we're in a triggered state. So I hope that's helpful. Again, it should be linked down below, the PDF or the document. And I really hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. There's so much fluctuating energy in the world. It's bringing so much up. The last video that I made was about that. So I really hope you're doing well. I'm here. I'm here if you need any, one-on-one support. I offer one-on-one sessions, so you can make a session on my website, laurenvorhees.com. You can book a 30-minute free session initially. Oh, and I forgot to mention the document is free. And then after that, it's paid sessions. You can pick 60 or 90 minutes. And we can go from there. So I'm here if you want any one-on-one support. And I hope you're doing great. I look forward to talking to you on the next one. Take care. Bye.